Hello, blessed week, a new week, a new Monday. You're welcome to the Teju Babyface Mentorship Academy. If you're just joining us, this is session 2, secret 25, okay? Where are the other 24 secrets? I encourage you to watch last week's session, okay? We can't be going back, can't be dribbling back every time, like my people say. Can't be dribbling back. All right, this one is called secret, or the secret of the kernel. Say kernel. Kernel, like K-E-R-N-E-L. The secret of the kernel. And we pick up from where we left off last week. We're still talking about epiphanies and their importance. Okay. Again, before we proceed, I must encourage you to not only watch last week's session, it is still here, but also make sure that you've read my book. All right? It's not about selling books. It's just that the first 23 secrets have been written down. As I've said severally, I never set out to write a book. This was what I always wanted to do. It just occurred to us somewhere along the line when we're facing difficulties to put the first 23 secrets in a book. So you should buy this book, The First 23 Secrets for Achieving Success. All right. So let's go for today's session. Now, on this issue of discovering your area of work or your calling, as I'd like to call it, you don't always discover it in one day. As I told you last week during our first class, you will need to have an epiphany, a moment of truth, before you can really come to the awareness of success or begin your success journey. And yet, there are many of us who won't or who don't have an epiphany yet. Why? That is what we'll be discussing today. Now, let me rephrase so that you can put it in perspective and grasp the truth and the depth of what I'm about to share with you. There is a place where you were created and made to function with excellence. When you finally get to that place, everything that you need to fulfill your destiny and to become the successful person that you have always wanted to be will come to you with simplicity. It will be simple. Now, let's be clear on that. I didn't say it will come to you easy. There is a difference, a marked one, between simple and easy. Simple is when you can see and know what to do, and you do them or you do it, and your efforts are rewarded with growth and other success indices. I'll say that again. Simplicity or simple, or when something is simple, is when you can see what you're doing. You know what to do. You do what you know to do. And your efforts are rewarded with growth and other success indices or success indexes. Don't let anybody tell you that you won't sweat. I've heard people say that when you get to your area of assignment, when you discover your destiny, when you are in God's will for your life, things will come to you without sweating. Lie. Even when you're in your place of assignment, success is hard work. You still have to put in the work. Usain Bolt is one of the greatest athletes of all time, but he sweats before he runs and when he runs. And then do you know the years of training that go into making him the world champion that he is? So the fact that you're in your place of calling in life doesn't mean you won't sweat. It just means that you will always have the grace and favor to overcome the obstacles, and you will see the fruits and the harvest of your labor. Let me go a bit further. I really want to break this down and illustrate. Imagine two men on equal plots of land, Mr. A and Mr. B. Side by side, they are both farmers, divided by a fence. Okay? Let's assume that the man on the right, Mr. A, is in his place of calling and has discovered what he should be doing. He has discovered his assignment. He's in alignment with the plans of providence for his life. That is the man on the right, Mr. A. And the man on the left, Mr. B, has not. They both put in the same amount of work to farm the land. After a few months or years, depending on what they are planting, the man on the right, Mr. A, who is in alignment with his call, gets a bumper harvest, while the man on the left, having done the same amount of work, gets nothing, or output is disproportionate to input, meaning that what he's getting in terms of return is less than the work or the labor he put in. That is just loss. all his labor was in vain. So that's what it means to be in your area of calling. You will do work, a lot of work, hard work in fact, but you will be rewarded bountifully for your efforts. And note, reward is not only in financial terms, it's not only what you get in terms of money, but the satisfaction and a peace that passes all understanding. Okay. However, before you get to that place, you must discover your place, an assignment. And you do this by having epiphanies. We have come round again to what we're talking about. Epiphanies, moments of truth, of lucidity, of, in fact, the entrance of light brings comprehension, so to speak. Now, as I told you in the last class, you will have a series of these epiphanies over the course of your career and life. I have had 4 till date. 4 that I can tell you. You won't have many, but you will have a few. It is that way because your life is a mystery, and it will take time to fully discover yourself. So everything is not shown to you at once. Providence gives you a first epiphany to guide you, and then after that, maybe a few years pass, and then you get another stronger and deeper epiphany, and then a few years pass, and you get them. Note, I'm using myself here as the basis for this teaching, okay? You won't get many epiphanies in your life, but I put it to you that you will get more than one because your life is line after line, precept upon precept. Now, last week I told you to write down your epiphany if you have had one and read it back to yourself. I also told you to send it to me. I also told you that if you hadn't had one yet, don't worry. You don't have an epiphany the first day you start working. What usually starts you out is interest and attraction. You get attracted to something. You get interested in something. And it is in the course of pursuing that something that you discover your first epiphany or lucid moment. Can I tell you a secret? Most people never leave this first stage. There are loads of people who had an interest in a particular area, got into it, enjoyed some level of comfort, and have been stuck on that level forever. If you were doing something, or if you have been doing something for a while that was working, but has suddenly stopped working despite your best efforts, I encourage you to check again if you haven't missed a signpost somewhere along the line. Now, I have a friend who is in a line of business who is always borrowing for the business. He came one time many years ago to say he needed this amount of money, and if he had it, then everything would turn around, and he had finally seen it. So I gave him the money. Then he returned a year later to say that, well, that one didn't work, but that was because he didn't get it, and on and on. We have been doing that for a few years now. He came to see me a few weeks ago again to ask for money, because this time again he had discovered the area that will work. And I know him. He's not a fraudster. He's a good guy. He really puts all this money in the business. But I had to sit him down and tell him what I'm telling you now. Look, this business might have worked for you at some point in the past. It might even be your passion still. But I think your time on this level is over. And the proof of it is that despite all you do, there are no tangible results to show for it. You might have missed the call of your spirit somewhere down the line. So I encourage you to take some time off and ask your spirit man a few questions. I am not saying you're in the wrong place or industry or you don't have a passion, but you might be doing the right thing the wrong way, or any one of a dozen other permutations. You're doing the wrong thing the right way. You're doing the right thing the right way in the wrong place. You're doing the right thing the wrong way in the wrong place. Whatever, you need to listen to your inner man. Now, the crux of today's secret is that even though you will require several epiphanous experiences to finally discover yourself and what and where you were called to. Now listen, we're getting there now. Even though you will require several years, several epiphanies, several revelations to get to where you're called to, everything about what you will ever be, everything will be in your first epiphany. Let me say that again. It takes years to discover yourself. In fact, a man I respect, T.D. Jakes, said that his father said to him that life is so complicated that when you finally discover yourself, most times if you're not careful, you're on your way out of life. Life is that complicated. that when you finally discover yourself, most times if you're not careful, you're on your way out of life. Life is that complicated. All right. But if you pay attention to wisdom, everything about who you will be is usually in your first epiphany. Let me make it sweeter, lest you get discouraged. Because there's a degree to which discouragement can set in. As you have heard me say that it will take years between one epiphany and the next. As far as you're concerned right now, you have suffered enough at this point, and you want it all to happen now. Hearing me tell you that you're going to have several epiphanies and it will take years might begin to get you discouraged, okay? But let me tell you a secret. Even though it takes years to get to the point of mastery, like I said, everything you will ever be is in your first epiphany or your first area of interest. I will use myself as an example. I have only now just come into what I consider the calling of my life. I have no doubt that there are higher dimensions to this call and that I will still get other epiphanies. I'm pretty certain all my epiphanies will revolve around leadership, inspiration, and my vocal gifts. It will involve me speaking, talking, performing. But only now, after all these years, have I finally gotten to my place, my own unique spot. But haven't you always known Teju Babyface? In fact, some of you have always heard my name since you were born. Next year, it will be 20 years since my first incursion into entertainment. So, I have always been moderately successful even from day one. That is important for you to know, because the fact that it is going to take years for you to finally discover yourself does not mean you will be suffering all those years, okay? As you discover yourself from one epiphany to the other, you will be successful on varying degrees. In fact, it is the relative success between one epiphany and another that causes most people to miss their destinies. It is because when they discover their area of interest or their first epiphany, they get so comfortable that they close their ears and miss the next epiphany. Have you ever wondered why you hear of some entertainers who were successful before and then you don't hear of them again? Or some pastors or some business people. They used to be successful before and then all of a sudden you don't hear of them again. And then years turn into decades and then their name and their achievements are lost in the annals of time. I believe it is because they got so successful, they got so comfortable between one epiphany and the next that they closed off their ears. So I say all this to encourage you. Even though it takes time for you to get to your final area of mastery, it doesn't mean that you will be suffering. If you don't take time, you will even be so comfortable between those moments that you will refuse to go on to the next level. Now, material wealth is one of the signs of alignment with your destiny, but it is not the only one. And sometimes it is not even in the equation, although I believe it's a great part of the equation in the times in which we live. Okay, so we've digressed a bit. Let me spend a few more seconds on that point. Material success is not always a sign that you are in alignment with your destiny. Material success is not always a sign that you are in alignment with your destiny. If that were the case, rich people will not commit suicide. And you know they do so. So that someone has money does not in any way mean they are fulfilling their destiny and that they have peace. So back to the main crux of all this. The secret of all this is that everything you're going to be in life, as I've said before, is already in your first area of interest or in your first epiphany. And that's why I call it the secret of the kernel. Remember where we started? The kernel of everything you will be, the seed of your place, the seed of your mastery is already in your first area of interest. Never mind why you went there in the first place. You might not be able to see it all, you might not understand it, but whatever area interests or excites you today, I put it to you that it has a great element of where you're going to end up. The only thing is that you cannot figure it out all by yourself or with your own head. I will use an analogy you will understand. Have you ever seen your own baby pictures or somebody else's? There are always great signs of how you're going to turn out in those baby pictures. When we see your baby pictures now, we can see great resemblance and say things like, oh, so you have always had big ears. Or, oh, your head has always been big. Or, oh, you have always had bright eyes. But we can only say that now. As a baby, when you were a baby, though people could predict and see to an extent what you were going to look like as an adult, no one could totally see it. You get? So when you get your first epiphany, when you get your first area of interest, everything that you're going to be is in that area, even though you can't see it clearly. And so we've come to the action point at the end of this class. So what should you do now? Where you are right now. What should you do? Pursue. Pursue whatever it is that is your interest and whatever it is that excites you now. Start pursuing it now. You don't have to have any great insights to want to start right now. You will hear people talk of epiphanos moments and how they were walking and suddenly they had a moment of inspiration and all that. And sometimes you will feel like you are lost. But don't worry. If you pursue your area of interest, one day I guarantee you will get yours. But all you need right now is interest and attraction. The only reason that I wanted to be an actor in the first place when I was in the university was so that I could become popular on campus and date many girls. Let me tell you that. I just wanted to date girls. As many girls as I could. In fact, when I was entering the university, I did not have any academic goals, I must confess to you. I was going to the great University of Lagos. And all I wanted to do, I had a set number of girls that I had to date. And failing that number, I would have been a failure as an undergraduate. But I didn't have the money to buy cars and the other fancy stuff to take them out. So I decided that the next route was to act, or the next route. Now, that seems far-fetched if you don't know the details of my life. Because, I mean, you're imagining, how could I just decide to be an actor? And then I just became an actor. Does one just decide to be something and the means suddenly became available? That's the second point of this session. Don't let me miss you here. I'm throwing the first point you have to, if you remember only one thing at this point, it is that everything that you will be in life, even when you think you don't have direction, is in your area of interest now. Whatever interests you right now, everything that you will be is in seed form in that area. The second point of this session, you will know that you're supposed to pursue an area of interest or attraction because the means to pursue it right now will be readily available to you right now. When I gained admission into the university, I happened to fall in with a group of guys who were members of the only independent theater outfit in the school. There was the Department of Theater Arts or Creative Arts, as we called it in Unilag, and those guys hardly put up shows. But I wasn't even interested in that. All I wanted was an opportunity to get on stage and act in the biggest plays on campus. And the only guys who were acting on campus at that time were these guys called Theater 15. Now, how did I get to meet these guys? When I was in preparatory lessons, preparing to write my exams for the university, I became friends with a guy whose elder brother was already in the University of Lagos, who was a member of the acting group. We weren't in school yet. We were in lesson beside University of Lagos. So every now and again, I would escort my friend to go and see his brother in Unilag. Ironically, when the time came to gain admission, I gained admission into Unilag. My friend who introduced me to his university brother didn't even get admission. Only I, with a third friend of ours, got admission. The guy who had the brother, who was in the acting club, did not even get admission. And when we got admission into University of Lagos, because that was the only person we knew, we started to hang around him. We joined his band of acting friends, and that's how I became a stage actor. So I ask you, was it a coincidence that the area I was attracted to also gave me simple access? Again, simple, not easy. It wasn't easy because I had to audition along with my other friend. In fact, I passed the audition and he didn't. So it wasn't like I just strolled in. So the points we have made today are straightforward and simple. And I want to round it all up in this class. First, we have reiterated that you will have to have several epiphanos moments in your life, moments of truth to finally discover your place in life or to start your journey of success. We have said that though it will take several years between one epiphany to another before you get to your promised land, your Canaan, your place of rest, you won't be in penury throughout, so don't be discouraged. You will, as a matter of course, increase in wisdom and stature because life is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Third, if you haven't had your aha moment or moment of epiphany, don't worry about it. You are no different from someone who has had an epiphany in the sense that you are both on the same line. You are running the same course, in a manner of speaking. The person is just further along than you are. They were once upon a time where you are at the moment. And if you keep doing what you're doing diligently, you will also get your own aha moment, your moment of epiphany, where you'll be able to say that I knew on this day that I should put all my efforts in that particular direction with my life. Fourth, and subsequent to that last point, to the third point, You need to start pursuing what your interest is now. All right? You need to start pursuing it now. And you will know you should go into that area because you will have an accessible route. It will not be an easy route, but it will be simple enough for you to see, and you will be able to access it. Fifth and finally, whether you have had an epiphany or not, everything you are going to be is already in everything you are right now. Whatever interests you right now is what you're going to be. I close with a final example. Chris Okotie is a great Nigerian pastor now. Everybody knows Pastor Chris or Reverend Chris Okotie. But Chris Okotie, in case you did not know, was a very famous musician when I was a young man. But he got an epiphany to go into ministry, and he left entertainment, and he went to be a pastor. And he has gone on, as I've said, to be one of the most recognizable pastors on the African continent. But check it out. Can you not see alignment between his first area of interest, that is music, and his eventual epiphany, ministering the gospel? Can you not see it? One way or the other, he is using his vocal gifts to influence people and pass a message. Whether he was singing for them to dance, or he's in church preaching the gospel, one way or the other, he's using his voice to influence people for a greater good or for a greater message. You get the point. Everything you will be is already in seed form inside you right now. Epiphanies only help you to clarify. They help you to show you more about yourself. In our next class, I will deal with the secret of starting. The secret of starting. Many of us have already discovered our epiphany. We already know what we want to do. We're already clear. We have the idea. We know what we want to do, but we're having problems starting. No money, no resources, frustration. How do we start? How do you go from just a dream to begin to execute? Next class, I will tell you how to start your own thing and begin to execute your own ideas. I'll see you then. Cheers. Bye.